Is that a company that you own?
It is.
And what kind of a company is that?
It's a production company.
What do you produce?
Films and documentaries.
And in addition to being a producer, have you also had armorer experience in the film industry?
I have.
So what I'd like to do, I'm going to back up just a little bit. I want to talk about your experience with regard to firearms prior to you becoming involved in the film industry. Can you tell us if you have any law enforcement or any kind of special firearms training?
I do. I spent most of my adult life using a firearm as a tool, either as a protector, a trainer, and then ultimately in the film industry as an armorer. My last official assignment that I worked on was New Orleans Police Department SWAT, Tactical Unit 3 under Jeff Wynn's command. That was during Katrina and all of Rita, and then all of the cleanup and restoration efforts. Before that, I worked as a contractor, securities contractor, for almost 20 years. I've worked on operations from Haiti to et cetera, et cetera. I've trained at mobile operation and urban combat training for RCTA. I've trained at NASA.
And what's RCTA?
Regional Counter Narcotics Training Academy.
Thank you, sir.
And they have a Mount City there that's mobile operations on urban terrain. I've received my high-risk environment training and implementation certification there, level 1 and 2. I've trained down at NASA at Cape Canaveral for SWAT and some machine gun and select fire training. Had some really good mentors that advised me to get as much training as they would put out there. So I was very fortunate to have their guidance and direction over a 20-year career.
Okay, and then how did you end up transitioning into the film industry?
After Katrina, we were down there working, and one of my buddies came to me and he said, "Would you like to go and do some bodyguard work for an actor?" And I was like, "No, I don't think so." So I turned him down at first, and then he kept coming back to me. I said, "You told him you had somebody, didn't you?" And he said, "Yeah, just go talk to him." So I went and had a conversation with him, and it ended up being the movie Deja Vu with Denzel Washington and his crew, and I went to work for him for a little while on that show, and got some guidance from him, and that transitioned me into film, and I took my skill set and applied it there.
And have you been employed on film sets in the role of armorer?
I have.
Approximately how many times have you worked as an armorer on a film set?
Considering individual episode TV and feature film, around 100 projects.
And have you been hired in some capacity by the Office of the Special Prosecutor?
Yes, I was contacted, it seems now maybe a couple years ago, to come on as a expert witness and try to help sort out some of the intricacies of film and armor services.
Okay. I would tender Mr. Carpenter as an expert in firearm safety on film sets.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. Firearm. Expert in firearm safety on film sets.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Carpenter, in the time that you have worked on this case, have you reviewed documents and videos?
I have.
And can you give the jurors an idea of the types of things that you've reviewed in order to be able to render opinions?
It's been a while now, and I've looked at quite a great deal of paper, video. I've watched police interviews. I've watched videos from the set of Rust that were taken. I've reviewed documents from the district attorney's office in the form of transcripts. Reviewed firearms. I've been able to actually go and look at the evidence. I've also looked at the rounds that were used on set, including the dummy rounds, etc., and a plethora of other things. It's categorized. It's I would say thousands of pages of documents.
Okay. And I'd like to begin by just having you explain to the jury generally what the role of an armorer on a movie set is, what their responsibilities are.
First and foremost, an armorer's responsibility is the safety of the cast and crew. paramount above all else. Secondly, from that, it is to creatively give the director and the film the look and the feel that they want. In other words, if it's a military operations show, then you will need to help them sort what a military operations personnel would have, or if it's an intelligence officer, or if it's a police officer or SWAT team member, etc. Then you help the props department find that equipment, source that equipment, and safely implement it on the set on a creative level.
In terms of the hands-on job of an armorer on set, what does the armorer do?
Hands-on, they handle the weapons, as one might expect. So you get these weapons in from a verified, safe source. You collect the weapons on the set or wherever the delivery point is. You check those weapons, and then you secure those weapons until they're implemented on the scene, and then re-secure them afterwards in chain of custody type.
And in terms of ammunition that is typically used on movie sets, we've heard a fair amount of testimony before you took the stand. We understand that frequently dummies and blank ammunition is used. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What is the armorer's responsibility with regard to that ammunition and quality control of that ammunition?
Well, again, we get back to the first thing is making sure it's sourced from a legitimate and vetted place. I source most of mine from ISS, Independent Studio Services, out of California. They have an excellent safety standard there. They have an entire gun department where they check these weapons in, check them out. All of these items are checked extensively. I used to have an instructor said to me that complacency kills, and you can't be safe enough. You cannot check things enough. So having multiple layers of safety is important. So I say that to say this: getting it from that location, you already have a sense that they're going to be what they should be, and they're going to be in the condition they should be in. However, falling back to that last statement, when we receive these items in, or an armorer receives those items in, it's important to also double verify that. So the first thing that would be done would be a safety check and an audit of all items that came in, including and especially any dummy rounds or blanks.
So it's the armorer's responsibility to take those rounds from the supplier and double check them.
That's correct.
Now, in terms of the amount of discretion that the armorer generally has on set, can the armorer stop filming because of safety issues?
Absolutely, you would hope that you don't get to that point because there's very few people that can call cut or just stop a movie in its tracks. There's 3 departments on a movie set that can cause the loss of life if not done properly. That's special effects, stunts, and armor services. Those 3 things are very important that safety be upheld to the highest level. And yes, if you find or see or find yourself in a position where something extremely unsafe is happening, you can call cut and stop the production.
Is the armorer working for the actor? And what I mean by that is, can the armorer tell the actor what to do when it comes to firearms and firearms safety?
The quick and straight answer is yes. The armor department falls under the prop master, and the prop master department falls under the art department by technicality, or technically I should say. That is the level of command and the chain of command on that. But at any given time, you can step outside of that chain of command and give instruction based off of what you're supposed to be doing, and that is safety and guidance therein.
In your career as an armorer, have you ever had experiences where you had to just take guns away from people on movie sets?
Yes.
And why would you ever have to do that?
It mostly happens, and all of the multitude of stunt performers are going to get upset at me saying this, but it's the truth. Stunt performers, I love them. We've trained so many, and our stunt performers can be seen on almost every action movie in the last 10 years, and I'm very proud of them. However, a stunt performer will quickly say that they can do just about anything if you ask them, from fly a jet to handle a lever action rifle. On that note, sometimes you give weapons off off to stunt performers and quickly realize that they are not handling them safely or properly. And at that point in time, you step in and very, politely and soft-handedly just walk over and say to the prop master or to whomever, take the weapon away and say, this person doesn't get a live weapon anymore. They get a replica or a dummy or nothing at all. And so, yes, I've had to do that in the stunt world pretty more than frequently, I would say. For an actor, I've never had to take a weapon away. I've worked with actors who were not allowed to handle a weapon due to safety issues previously, but I've never had to personally take one away from an actor. I've corrected actors, but never had to take one away.
And in terms of correcting actors, what are the things that an armorer does on a movie set to correct an actor? I believe in the soft-handed approach, which is the best. Observe until it's time to step in, and at that point of observation, step in and offer suggestions. And if those suggestions are not followed, then you get more serious and say, this isn't a suggestion any longer. This is a direct action. We need to do it this way. I had one particular scene where they wanted to walk into a motel room with submachine guns, fully automatic weapons firing at the guy that kicked the door open, and the guy that was coming into the room, the actor, was going to be firing two pistols at the same time, semi-automatic handguns, and the proximity of the room was too close. They wanted to do it in what's called a oneer, which is just straight through shot, where we're not going to break it up and have little small bits and pieces of the shot, and they were pretty dedicated toward that, so I had to step in and say, that's not safe and we can't do it this way. We're going to have to break this up and make it to where everyone's not in the scene and in a small hotel room together. And sometimes what you just described can actually affect the filming of the movie.
It can.
Okay. But that's the armorer's job, right?
It is, and your job also is to...
Okay, you're right.
Your job is also to affect it in a way that, again, is soft-handed. You give the creative side of the team what they want in the look while giving them options of safety, until it becomes, and hope it never becomes, a moment where you have to say, there just cannot be done this way at all. And generally they listen.
I want you to walk the jury through the steps that an armorer takes on a movie set when they are preparing to provide an actor with a weapon for a scene.
Okay. So you want me to get into the weeds enough to all the way from shipping to preparation, or just on the day of?
Just on the day of.
On the day of, you will have had time to prepare whatever item. And let's just say in this particular instance, it's a very simple scene. There's a revolver that the detective is using to chase a bad guy, right? You know what you're going to need for that day. Let's say he shoots 2 rounds at the bad guy, okay? And they want the revolver loaded with dummies. And the dummy rounds, as I think have been explained, are a specific entity unto themselves. You'll have your dummy rounds sequestered aside from your blank rounds that will be fired that day. It will already be safety meetings and discussions had with the props department, etc. So you know what you're doing, exactly what you're doing. It's on the call sheet, etc., etc. You take your firearm and you have it in, let's just say, a locked box or whatever you're carrying it to the set with. And when it's time for that scene to be shot, you go out to the scene, and at that point in time, you open up the box. And right when they're prepping, and you kind of get a feeling of this, when they're prepping, when they're bringing camera out and they're setting it up, and they call the actors out to the set, it's time to start clearing that weapon. You take that weapon out. You clear that weapon with at least 2 representatives on set. Anybody that wants to see it gets it cleared with them if they request. But generally, it's going to be your first AD and possibly the DP as well, on the director of photography, which is the camera.
Who's the first AD in this case?
And then Rust would be Dave Halls.
And who is the director of photography?
It would be Helena Hutchins.
Okay, please continue, sir.
The revolver would be cleared, showed to be clear and safe, and no obstructions in the barrel, nothing in the cylinder, etc., etc. You would talk about the type of rounds that you're firing. Let's say they're shooting half flash, which is not full flash blank, it's a half of a blank, right? Half flash blanks, and you would definitely take your dummy rounds out. You would show them, shake them, listen to them. It's an audible and visible view that you can look at it. You can hear it, you can feel it, right?
So in terms of the dummy rounds, I just want to make sure, are you testifying that you show the individual dummy rounds to the AD and whoever else wants to see.
Absolutely.
And the actor.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, the actor may or may not be on set yet, but when they get there, this is done again. So with the actor, and sometimes you'll have an actor that says, "Nah, I don't want to see it," or they'll just brush it off. But as long as you've done your safety check with at least 2 other sources and moved through that process, then you've done what you should have done, along with your own checks. Having said that, you will wait until the scene is about to get to start shooting. Usually, no matter what they say, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, hand the gun out, hand the gun out." Well, to wait till they're about speeding sound, and there you got also the feeling of doing it enough to when they're really going to start rolling that camera. Because otherwise, you're handing off a weapon and then you're getting it back, and then the process just keeps slowing down. So you have to maintain that level of control there. At the last moment, you hand off the weapon to the actor. The scene is shot, and as long as nothing changes, meaning no one leaves or nothing changes on that set, you can stand there with that weapon observing the scene until it's time to collect it back up. And you always want to be Johnny on the spot. When that actor gets through with that scene, they're going to be immediately looking to hand it to somebody, and they'll hand it to anybody. So you have to be there and collecting that weapon up safely and securely, maintaining muzzle discipline, etc., etc. And then if they walk off and they want to come back, then this process repeats again.
In your experience, should the armorer ever leave a gun with anyone else and leave the area?
Not a live weapon, no. And when I say live, I mean a weapon capable of firing a round or a blank.
A live weapon being, it could be a prop gun, but it's a real revolver.
Props or replicas are different than a live gun. So what a lot of people don't understand on a movie set is most of the weapons are real guns. As far as the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, ATF is concerned, these are all real weapons. And they're serial numbered, licensed. That's a real weapon, regardless of modifications. For use in film, it's capable of firing a round in some capacity or other. A prop gun is completely an inert weapon that cannot fire a round in any capacity, and a replica is simply one that looks like a gun but is not.
Okay, so pursuant to your definition of a live gun, that being a fully operable firearm, would the armorer ever leave that and walk away?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because it just opens the door for any type of accident to occur. You have no management of that weapon at that point in time. It could, from the most simple of things, be laid down by a performer haphazardly and picked up by any number of people or left in areas that are unsecured. You can't manage what's happening to the weapon. If someone drops it, damages it, now it's going to malfunction. If somebody sticks the muzzle of it down into the dirt and fills it with dirt and then you fire a blank round, many things on a very I guess would be on a low scale of danger, and then you work up to more dangerous things like someone having blank rounds left in their pocket and loading it, or pointing it at another person, or breaching the force safety rules, etc., or having it stolen.
In your experience, how does the armorer generally carry the ammunition when on set for the moment that they're going to load it with dummies or blanks and hand it to the actor?
Now you get into a lot of different types of movies that you're going to work on. If you're working on a modern movie with machine guns, etc., and you're shooting thousands of rounds a day, then you may load your blanks into the magazines, checking them all previously. Then I tape the magazines over the top with a particular kind of tape, and I mark on that how many rounds, what type of rounds, etc., and we check all of those things. If it's a Western or something that's using older weapons that are more simple to operate, then I generally carry my blanks in a locked, what they call a magazine. The ATF refers to it as a magazine. It's anything that holds ammunition or explosives. So I will have my blanks in a magazine, and I will have my dummies separately in generally I use a locked Pelican box, Pelican boxes are atmospherically conditioned boxes that lock in the front, and they're made out of a heavy, durable plastic.
Those, those Pelican boxes that you use, is that something that production pays for, or is that just part of your kit?
It's part of my kit, generally.
So you bring with you some of your own personal items.
Sometimes our company, Dark 30 Film Services, would have rented a firearm. I generally err toward the side of getting them through ISS, but when it comes to ancillary items such as Pelican boxes or means of storing and categorizing all of this ammunition, I prefer to use my own system, which is what I'm accustomed to, and I feel very safe and secure. So I would bring those things.
Okay. In your experience, are film sets frequently rushed environments?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because in any movie, time is an exact equal to money. The more time you spend, the more money you spend. And that comes from even when they invite an actor to walk, you'll have a PA saying, our actor's walking 30 seconds. I mean, it gets down to the seconds, literally, on a film. So the more time you don't have your things in order, or you're not prepared to actually get what they say, things in front of camera and on camera, the more money you're spending. So any delay of any sort is an expense to the production and to the producers or studio.
Can that rushed atmosphere have an effect on the armorer?
Yes.
And talk to us about the effect that it can have, and in your experience, what the armorer's responsibilities are.
Well, I can say this, and this is something that I was also with my one of our very good mentors always told me. He said, if you're being rushed, that's the time to slow down twice as much. And so that's generally the rule of thumb. If the production is rushing you and they're pushing you, which they do, then at that point in time you need to stop, take a beat, take a breath, and slow down twice as much as you were before. Because that means you're getting into an atmosphere of unsafe behavior, and you're getting into something where you may miss something or have a misstep or overlook something, and that is not a place to be when you're in charge of safety.
If you do what you just described and you intentionally slow things down for safety, do sometimes other people on the set get upset with you?
Yes.
And what do you do then?
You have to be prepared to go home. In lack of a better word, I've always, believed, and it's very important that if you take a role where you're in charge of other people's safety and well-being, ultimately, even in a circumstance of their life, then it doesn't matter. Your ethos or your code that you work by is, I will do what's right, regardless of what it may mean to me downstream. And having said that, there's been more than one time that I've thought, well, I might as well go pack my things up and get ready to leave this movie set, because I'm definitely not going to rush things.
Okay.
It didn't happen, but it could have.
In your experience, do armorers carry dummies or blanks loose in their pockets or a fanny pack?
Different armorers could carry things, I guess, any way they chose that they felt like it was secured. So, I'm sure they do. I don't.
Why not?
Because I don't feel dummy rounds are specifically spooky, for lack of a better word, also when you're using them on a movie set, because they're meant to recreate the look and feel of a real round, right? Or I should say the look without the BBs inside, which the audience would never know. So having said that, it's just a good idea to have those things in an area where you're in 100% control of them. So loose inside of bags or inside of pockets just doesn't equate to that, as far as I'm concerned. But other people may be able to manage.
In your opinion, should an armorer leave a gun with an assistant director and walk away?
No.
Why not?
Because that goes right back to the fundamental rules of gun safety. If you're not in control of of viewing this weapon and knowing where it is and who's handling it and what they're doing with it, then you've lost control completely. So you need to be observing these things, these weapons at all times.
And are you familiar with accidental discharges?
There's two types of discharges that are in the firearms world, training world, etc. You have NDs and ADs. ADs are accidental discharges. Now, an accidental discharge happens very infrequently, because that means there was a malfunction of the weapon or something that created a true accident. Almost all discharges that occur are negligent discharges, or NDs, which means it's operator error. So an ND would be the correct verbiage there.
And are you aware, based on the review of the documents and the materials in this case, are you aware that there were, I think what you're referring to as negligent discharges?
Yes.
Okay. And are you also aware that with regard to those negligent discharges, Ms. Gutierrez was not in control of those weapons at the moment?
It is my understanding, yes.
Okay. So, if there's a negligent discharge on a movie set, ultimately, who's responsible for that?
It would be the armor's responsibility. Now, obviously, that blame also can be split with whoever created the negligent discharge, but if you create an environment for the ND to occur, then the blame is on the armorer and on the person who actually had the negligent discharge. So it's a double-sided coin there.
Okay. In your experience, does a movie set armorer generally keep their blanks and dummies locked up?
They should, yes.
Why?
To avoid any disturbance of them, anyone, again, it's just like chain of custody in court or the law enforcement world, or any world where you have evidence moving from point A to point B. You need to have one person in control of it. More hands on it or incorrect hands on it can open up the door for accidents and things to go wrong.
In your experience, do actors generally do their own safety checks of the weapon? And what I mean by that is the actor is manipulating the gun, taking the ammunition in and out, looking at it.
You know, I've worked with a few actors that wanted to check their own weapons even after my safety checks occurred, just because they felt more comfortable doing that. As long as I was there standing and observing and letting them do that, as long as my safety checks occurred, they can do as many more safety checks as they feel. However, those safety checks are more for a warm and fuzzy feeling for them, not for me as a professional, because I'm going to make sure that we check it the way that I need to check it, in front of the right people and individually. If they feel like they need to do it again, then by all means.
Okay.
But that's rare.
In your experience, is the director usually allowed to handle the weapons?
No, the director generally almost never handles the weapon.
And why?
It's just not in his or her purview. I mean, the director is very much 100% the creative driving force of the film, and in that area they are very much focused. So handling a weapon or doing anything with weapons other than saying I want it to look like this or look like that, or this is what I want to happen in a scene, would be about the extent. But handling them, no.
Let me ask you this: if you're the armorer on a busy movie set, and you need to use the bathroom, do you just let some other people take over your role?
Well, you can let other people take over momentarily if you collect up all items, put them in an area, and do what's called a fire watch. In other words, you can bring over the prop master or someone who's in your department that's trusted, not just anyone, but someone who's trusted in your department, generally the prop master, and say, hey, I need to go to the bathroom. Then they will stand there and watch, not touch, just watch that cart or those items once they've been collected up until you get back. But it has to be someone, obviously, that understands what safety protocol is.
In your experience, should a prop master be loading and unloading weapons?
That's a particular question because some prop masters are actually also armorers as well, and they have, it all gets down to a lot of the ATF regulations where prop masters are put on, and for lack of a better term here, on the books of whoever's firearms license is providing those weapons. So if the firearms provider has put the prop master and the armorer on their books, and they are qualified to handle the weapons and have been trained in safety and implementation of these weapons, well, in that case, yes, the prop master could step in. And there are some very good prop masters that are also excellent weapon handlers in Hollywood, and I've worked with several of them. However, in generalities, no, if you're not a trained prop master, that's why prop masters hired an armorer to do the job.
Would you expect a prop master who has never shot a real gun before to be placed with the responsibility of loading and unloading weapons?
No.
Why not?
Because I'm assuming that if they've never shot a weapon or handled a weapon, then they would, and that's an assumption for this particular, if we're talking about the prop master on this particular show, admittedly did not have any firearms experience at all, and that would not be someone I would want to be handling a weapon in any aspect.
Would it be adequate if you have a prop master on set and it's a busy set, just to spend 10 minutes training them how to load and unload the guns and then give them that responsibility?
Yeah, I do not believe that 10 minutes would adequately be able to train somebody with safety of firearm.
What do you think it would entail for someone to really be able to do that and do it safely?
At the very minimum, and I've pushed for this in film for a long time, at the very minimum, a 40-hour week training session with proper firearm safety handling, a minimum certification of 40-hour certification, I would think. And that would be the absolute minimum before you could actually... You understand, this isn't the same thing as having a weapon that you have at home and you want to be safe at your home and make sure that you know how to handle it and no one can do anything wrong with that weapon, and you're being a citizen, if for lack of to better term with it. It's a difference between also stepping into the role of a safety professional on a movie set where you have other people's responsibility to look at. So that would require a lot more.
And are you actually a firearms instructor?
I am.
And how long have you been an instructor?
I've instructed on and off for 20 years prior to my film, and then I also instructed in film as well. Out of 100% of the movies, about 20% the actors want to actually fire a weapon. In those particular cases, it's very planned event, and I have instructed and trained actors in film as well. So I guess you consider it current too, so I guess around 30 years of training. Okay.
In your experience, would it be sufficient if the movie is dealing with single action revolvers such as this movie? Is the safety check sufficient if the armorer already has the gun loaded, brings the gun to the assistant director, opens the loading gate, and spins the cylinder, but doesn't remove any of the dummies?
And no, and you could actually look at it in a way that's actually worse than not even looking at it at all, because you have opened the cylinder, opened the latch on the side of the cylinder, you have spun the cylinder, and you're looking at it from a rear view. So all you see is the end of the back of the base of the bullet, right, of the round. So you cannot identify anything as to what type of round that is in there, except that there are rounds in there. So what you've done effectively is identify that you have a fully loaded weapon, but have no idea what type of rounds you have in there.
And have you seen videos in this case of Mr. Baldwin in the church pulling his gun?
I have.
From a shoulder holster?
From a shoulder holster, correct.
In your experience, is there anything particularly dangerous or difficult about that action that we've seen? And these folks have actually seen those videos now also.
You fall back to the fundamental safety rules, Cooper's safety rules, which everyone in the industry follows, which is muzzle discipline, finger off the trigger, etc. I'm sure you've heard this, ad nauseum so far. So on that lines, as long as you're following those safety rules, you can draw from any position whatsoever. A shoulder holster is simply a shoulder holster, meaning you're going to draw from the opposite side of your strong hand. Cross draw is a belt which is drawn across body from your strong hand, and then you have just a regular drop holster that comes down, which is on your strong side. Doesn't matter which holster, it matters not what you draw from, as long as you're following your safety rules. And it's nothing particularly difficult about drawing from one or the other, just different technique.
Okay. And let me just review my notes real quick. In your experience, is the armorer physically present for every scene or take being filmed on the movie that involves a firearm?
Yes. I should preface that by saying a live firearm, not a prop or a replica.
Understood. And in this particular case, you indicated that you went to the evidence room and you viewed the firearms that are in evidence. Is that right?
That's correct.
So do you have an idea of which guns on this movie set were fake and which guns were actually real operating firearms?
I know of the weapon that Mr. Baldwin was using. I know that he had a replica. I believe it was a Denix replica, and then the real weapon. That was the only two I looked at.
Okay. Have you seen videos in this case that were taken by Production Outfitters, which is a company that does behind-the-scenes footage?
Yes.
I'd like to go ahead and go through some of those with you now.
Okay, sure.
Okay. We are going to present exhibits 149 through 161 as we go through Mr. Carpenter's testimony. I'd like to go ahead and move for the admission of them now and ask permission to publish.
Any objection?
No objection, Your
All
Honor.
right. All right, they're admitted. You may publish 149 through 161.
Okay. Monitor me. All right, great.
My glasses.
Mr. Carpenter, can you see your screen there?
I'm 50 years old and get my glasses on, okay?
You and
I can
me
see
both.
it now.
All right, let's I'm going to play for you State's Exhibit 149. We don't know where the volume is. We'll fine tune it when we get started. I don't hear anything.
It's not coming through now.
Got a little fight to him.
Everyone works right.
Come here, little pig.
You're already connected.
I'm going to just start that over.
Can you all hear if you want it up a little bit more? Up, a little bit more.
Got a little fight to him.
Everyone works right.
Come here, little pig.
You're already connected. Want to make sure.
I'm going to stop the video here. Are we okay?
Well, they said they'd like it up a little bit more.
Okay.
Sure.
Let's see if we can.
We can't do it. George says it's up to the max.
It's on the max on this one too.
Let me double check what I've got here. Hang on.
You could put the microphone closer to.
Let's see. Let me see. Let me try this for y'all. And just so you know, because these are behind the scenes filming, I don't think we're really, there isn't a lot of close-up audio of when these people are kind of mulling around. Let's go ahead and start over.
Got a little fight to him.
Everyone works right.
So I'm stopping that at 21 seconds. Do you see anything concerning in this video?
And the number one thing is muzzle discipline. That performer, that stunt performer, I'm assuming that's a stunt performer right there, has got what appears to be live weapons, and he's got zero muzzle discipline. He's holding the shotgun, and if you back it up to the beginning, he points it almost directly at, I believe it's Joel Souza, right at the front, or I'm not sure who that is, but he's handling that weapon. That weapon should be turned down at the ground, muzzle pointed down when he's carrying it, and his pistol should be holstered and never brought out, which he doesn't, but he carries the shotgun muzzle up. You can back it up a little bit more. Right. Come on back a little bit. Right about all in here. I guess that's the young child actor right there. So these are just examples of muzzle discipline. You never let the muzzle of the weapon cover anything you're not willing to harm. That's rule number 3 of firearms handling.
How is Ms. Gutierrez supposed to be responsible for what this actor is doing with this gun?
Well, from what I can see on the from the camera angles is I don't know if she's present here, and it appears that they have live weapons out without her presence. If she were present, I would ask that she. Well, I would think that she would tell that performer that you need to put that weapon pointed down at the ground. If she's standing there with him, correct his behavior with the weapon a bit.
So it's her responsibility to correct his unsafe handling of that gun.
I don't object to leading again.
She's repeating his testimony, overruled.
Yes, what you would want to do is, and this is an example of a stunt performer that that I would have replaced if he could not handle the weapon properly and safely after instruction. He would have not had a live weapon.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and let me see if let me just kind of run through it real quick and see.
And it's even also more important when you've got a child actor on set or any children on set. It's very important that you, even though you wouldn't say that there are layers of safety, but as a matter of principle and just professionalism, if you've got a child on set, it becomes an exponentially more important to make sure the safety is performed.
Okay, and
it's also industry standard as well with firearms.
I've just fast forwarded the video up to 53 seconds. And I'm not particularly interested in that young man. did you see the same stunt performer back there on that patio?
I did.
And what was he doing?
He pointed it directly at the chest of the lady or the person in the white sweater, and then turned it around and pointed it at one of the other performers.
Hey, look.
And as the camera pans around, do you ever see Ms. Gutierrez?
I did not see her in that video, no.
And
Join him behind him. And then the brothers come out. Okay. Fleet first comes out and just as he's coming, just snatch him up. Grab him. Put your hand. I want you to throw your hand over his mouth. You don't want the screen. Yep. Right.
So we can go wider than the 75, yeah?
Yeah.
what's your concerns, if any, about what we're seeing here?
The same behavior by that same stunt performer is the gentleman in the hood walked by him. He had the muzzle pointed directly to his back. And keep in mind, and this is very important, that knowing what we know now, and the reason we're here in court, is that there were live rounds on the set of Rust. So you maintain one of the first safety rules is treat all weapons as they are always loaded. And that's to mitigate any problem that might happen downstream. So you have to assume that there may have been live rounds in any of these firearms that we're watching in these videos. There were live rounds there, so imagine the concern that you would have knowing that at any point in time any of these handguns or long guns could have a live round in it. So then it makes it a lot more concerning when that double-barrel shotgun's pointed to that man's back.
Okay.
He gets shot, right? And then what do I do? They come out and grab me? You're coming out around him. No, that's later. He sort of, he got him. He sort of sliced his way free a little bit. You grab. There's not a guy getting.
Now, is it your impression that they're filming a scene right now?
They're prepping to film. They're talking about creative decisions of how they want to speak, talk, stand, the action.
But they're not actually filming a take.
No.
Should these actors and stuntmen already have the guns in their possession if they're not filming?
No.
Oh, well, that's the same spot. Oh, is that later? This is the spot, yeah. He does get shot like this. So am I just running past and...
Yeah, and they come around the corner. Boom.
Then, yeah, just like that.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit.
You're gonna poop up there. Holding the... That's it.
So we can just see if
On their back
there's
for...
anything else that I want you to comment about on 150.
They're doing a rough rehearsal here. A rough rehearsal, just going through it.
So for the purposes of the rough rehearsal, is it acceptable for the actors, the camera isn't rolling yet, should they have the live firearms at this point?
If the armor is present and the weapons have been properly cleared, yes, they could have the firearms at this point.
Easy, Hollister. We got y'all coming with us now.
And now you gotta fight your way free. So let go, get loose a little bit, sort of throw an elbow back toward him.
Ooh, funky.
Got a little fight to him. Come on, little piggy.
You could honestly probably wrap the...
Do you still have concerns about that muzzle?
I would tighten that up a bit, just because of what they're doing here and with the young actor in it as well. But yes, and that's just my way of doing things.
Okay, and I'm going to rewind and I want you to listen.
Come on, little piggy.
You could honestly probably wrap the shotgun if you wanted.
That'll be delicious.
Do you know whose voice that is?
I do not, and I did not quite hear that. I've got bad hearing, sorry. Terrible hearing.
Come on, little piggy.
You could honestly probably wrap the shotgun if you wanted. That would be delicious.
That's where we like.
Do you know who that female's voice is?
Yeah.
Okay. For the purposes of my next question, let's assume that that is the voice of Hannah Gutierrez.
Okay, and what did she say? I heard shotgun.
Let me replay it for you, because I'll get it wrong.
We got a little fight to him. Come on, little piggy.
You could honestly probably wrap the shotgun if you wanted. That would be delicious.
That's where we like them.
You could honestly
Wrap the shotgun?
wrap the shotgun.
For the scene, I think,
That's
is
right.
probably what they're discussing.
Right. Wrap it around him and hold him in place with it, right.
So, assuming that's Ms. Gutierrez that we can hear, and she's present,
Right.
what should she be doing with this stuntman that we've seen with his bad muzzle discipline?
Right. She, like I say, tightening him up, pull him off, discreetly and starting off, say, hey, look, be careful where you point the muzzle of the weapon, you're swinging it around pretty haphazardly, hopefully it's already been checked and checked properly, then, give him a little coaching.
I'm just fast forwarding to see if there's any other places I want to stop.
It's also of note here is if you're going to use that scene that way and you're going to handle the shotgun, then clear the crew out, get some proximity, in areas of safe zones that you operate within. It's a lot of people walking in and out. There's a lot of crew in and out of there. You just need to get that whole area under control a bit better.
Okay. And where I've stopped it here, I have stopped States Exhibit 150 at 5 minutes and 2 seconds. What do you see with regard to that shotgun right now?
It's pointed at the child, I'd say the young child actor, young actor. And it's not. Understand that if you're seeing, there are scenes in movies that require, weapons to be pointed in certain directions, but you take safeguards and measures prior to that. Just standing in the middle of a rough rehearsal and doing this thing is one level above him walking around with it in between takes.
Okay. And should the actors or stuntmen walk around with their live firearms in between takes?
No.
Why not?
Again, it opens the door to any unsafe act that might occur, from loss of the weapon, like we talked about, to leaving it somewhere. I've seen all of these things occur on a movie set, to lack of control. And at the end of the day, control is how you manage safety.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Tom, can we wire bone and cleat, please? Where's Sam?
Are you gonna aim like that?
Yeah.
A little higher. I would just gone.
And right there, were we in between takes?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And again, do you see anything problematic?
Same stunt performer. I would have taken that weapon away from him well before.
Okay.
Or instructed him, and if he couldn't follow instruction, I would have taken it away from him.
Okay. States Exhibit 151.
I don't even have to curse. That was a 0.
Do you see Ms. Gutierrez there?
I did.
And you've seen this video before, right?
I have.
I'm at 8 seconds, just for the record.
0.
What is Ms. Gutierrez doing?
She's holding that double-barrel shotgun pointed up at her neck and face.
Why would that be concerning to you?
Never let the muzzle of the weapon cover anything you're not willing to harm. It's a fundamental safety rule. You treat all weapons as they're always loaded, also fundamental safety rule.
How would you expect proper gun safety on a movie set if the armorer is not following basic gun safety?
That's a very good question. It would be hard to implement.
All right. States Exhibit 152. Same problem with that guy in that video?
Same problem,
Same guy.
and I don't know where Ms. Gutierrez is. Of course, the camera's only facing one direction, so I don't know if she's behind camera or anything, but I don't see her present.
And if she is present, she's supposed to do something about that, right?
Well, you take the weapon up in between scenes. In between any usage on camera, you take the weapons up.
Okay.
Secure them.
And
And check them, and then recheck them when they go back out.
We'll go through that a little bit. What is the armorer supposed to do if you've got 3 or 4 actors or stuntmen that all have weapons and we're in between takes? Are you really required to go and collect those weapons from those actors and stuntmen?
That is correct. And if you can't do it on your own, then you need to put an additional armorer on set that can do it with you. And so I've worked in scenes where we've had hundreds of extras, and we did the miniseries Roots. We did the Battle of Fort Pillow there, and we had, I think I had, guessing at 18 armorers on that day, or 16. That was a lot. Exact number I can't remember. But I've had many gunfight scenes where you had a multitude of people shooting machine guns and around. And if you're skilled enough that you can maintain control in one small area of take, in other words, if they're filming a gunfight scene and it's just the area of the juror's box, then there's easy to control. But if they're spread out over a large area, you need additional help. But yes, you take them up in between scenes.
States Exhibit 153.
What's up? Downstairs?
Is there a reflection issue on those windows or no?
No.
I'm staying out of it.
Hey, Girl and Mark. And set, ready, and action. Please. Easy, Hollister. You coming with us now? Who's coming? Go on! You're Roger good. We'll see. Calm yourself down a little bit. Take a deep breath. Okay. Margo, we need to find a way to
I still think you need to be coming out a little sooner, if possible.
Yeah?
So, was it your impression from watching that video that they were actually filming a take at that point?
Yes.
And what happened when the filming was over?
The camera panned around approximately 90 degrees left.
Well, let me ask you this. What happened with the actors' guns when the take was over?
I didn't see the full end of it, but they were still holding them, standing there with them.
Okay. And is that the point when the armorer is supposed to come in and take them away?
Yes, exactly. And if you're filming a scene, they can be secured right there. You can have your cart that you work off of. You're doing this scene. This is the scene with the firearms in it. You can assume, unless they're using a B unit, which is a secondary filming unit, you're only filming one scene at one time. So whatever that scene is that you're filming, you can be right there present to it, and then the camera goes to the next scene. So it's not as if there were 4 or 5 scenes filming simultaneously.
Okay. So in this particular video, or in this particular circumstance, is it your opinion that Ms. Gutierrez needed to, when the camera stops, go in, take the weapons, and keep them secured until the next rolling of the film?
Your Honor, objection leading.
I think it's a direct question. I don't think it's leading.
Yes, unless, of course,
Question summarizing his testimony, so go ahead.
thank you. Yes, unless, of course, they're going to still be in that scene. Let's assume that the weapons were properly cleared, made safe, and this is what I was talking about initially. If they're never going to change anything and they're going to continue to film that scene over and over again, then sure, leave it with the performers as long as you're standing there watching them. But the minute that they walk off from in front of that camera, the weapons come back to the card or come back to the armor. If they're in front of camera standing right there and they're like, hey, stand right there, nobody move, 30 seconds, we're going to roll again, and then we can do that all day long if you want to.
So, in your experience, when the armorer takes the weapons from the actor, and then, a few minutes later, we're now filming we're going to do another take of that same scene. What's the procedure? Do you just hand the guns right back to the actors?
No, redundancy is never a thing when it comes to safety. So you want to be redundant. Have, one is none, two is one mentality. You take that weapon, you move it back into the scene, you do a quick check. Doesn't take but a moment. Open it up, clear it with your DP, clear it with your first AD, show the actors clear, and hand it back out. Moments.
And when you do that, are you showing them the ammunition?
If they're using dummies, yes.
Okay. And you're showing them the same ammunition again?
That's right.
Okay. State's Exhibit 154.
Ready, and action. Come on, kids. Let's go.
I don't understand. You're gonna die.
Okay, let's reset. You're dang right about that. You're right. I think
Do you have any concerns about that?
Same, pretty much the same as before.
Same guy, same behavior?
Same guy.
State's Exhibit 155.
Sounds like a Saturday night to me.
almost a wire.
So like, careful with the human behind you.
Gotcha. So you just shoot it like this, right?
No.
And what are we doing here? State's Exhibit 155.
He actually did a 360-degree muzzle discipline breach on that one. So he went around in a full circle with the muzzle at everyone in the vicinity, and then he handed the weapon to the young actor.
And in a circumstance like this, what is the responsibility of the armorer?
Just to intercede. I mean, I would have walked in, let's just assume this is the first time I saw this, and I was standing right behind where you're seeing camera. I would have saw him with the muzzle. I just said, hey, Bill, or whatever his name is. I just say, hey, Bill, listen, make sure you keep that thing slung down while I'm sitting here watching you if we're about to, do this scene. Now, if we're not about to do the scene, he doesn't even have the weapon at all, so it's a moot point. But let's assume that we're just about to film this, and I've given it and done the safety checks. And if I had seen him handing a weapon off to anyone, much less a young, underage person, that would have been the end of that. He would not have been handling a weapon anymore. In my, if anything to do with me personally.
Let's say hypothetically you do that. You say that's it. You don't get to handle weapons anymore. And let's say somebody from production comes to you and says, look, that guy needs to handle that weapon. What do you do?
And this exact thing has happened before, and I've been in that exact predicament before, and or I shouldn't say predicament, I should say situation, because it's only that if you allow it to be. I told him, I said he's unsafe with the weapon handling, and I've instructed him. He is not listening, and I'm not going to have an accident occur on the set, and I don't want it, and you sure don't want it. So If he needs something, we can give him a replica. We can change it up. He doesn't need to use. We can go get a replica, this, that, or the other that he can use. We're not firing in this scene, so it should be fine. Or maybe we just hand him off, a replica handgun, and he doesn't even use a long gun in the scene. We use a stick or a staff or whatever. There are ways around this, and at the end of the day, it's always been placed. A suggestion placed correctly and professionally is generally listened to.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just finish that.
All right. Here we go.
Hold it hard, that button is to be unbuttoned.
So after the weapon was taken back from the child, are you still seeing that same bad behavior from that stunt performer?
Yeah, he's toying with the weapon at this point.
State's Exhibit 156.
We need a Bernie towel.
Hey, carry on. Go ahead, put it in and put it on 24. Then I go 3, 2, 1. There you go.
Alan,
Alright, Candy, I'm going hot. Yeah, do it.
And did you just see Ms. Gutierrez come into the frame?
I did.
we need a Bernie towel.
Hey, carry on. Go ahead, put it in and put it on 24. Then I go 3, 2, 1. There you go.
Alan,
Alright, Candy, I'm going.
Do you see what she's doing?
Yeah, she's just walking in frame, in front of frame.
Does she have anything in her hand?
Could you back it up one more time, please? I was watching the stunt performer behind him. Okay, she's carrying the double barrel shotgun, it looks like. Muzzle end up.
Is that a proper way to carry that gun?
It is not.
Is that a safe way to carry that gun?
It is not. And you see the stunt performer in the rear swinging that handgun around, which what I was watching. He was actually pointing. He was talking and pointing with his firearm. Now, you asked previously why you don't hand off live firearms to stunt performers. One of the reasons, there's your reasons right there. If they don't have it in their hand until they need it, then there's no chance of them being unsafe with it.
I'm going to try to get up to what you're describing. You saw that in this video?
Yes, it's the guy with the
Right there.
Right there. He's talking and discussing what he's doing and using his pistol as a pointing stick. Again, we have to assume all weapons are always loaded, and in this case, may well have been.
Okay.
We're going to take our morning bathroom breaks. Please don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court. Jurors.
All rise. In the military?
in the military.
Okay. All right. Do you have any children?
I have one,
Okay. And how old is your child?
14.
Okay. All right. Where did you live in Atlanta?
I lived at 2993 Arbor Chase in Decatur, Georgia.
Okay. And who did you stay there with?
I stayed there with Eligio Bishop and a few other people. Do you want me to name them all?
No, you just, about how many people stayed there?
Oh, it was roughly around 15, 16 people.
Okay. Was it a mixture of males and females?
Yes, it was.
Okay. All right. And during the time that you lived there, was there music production, video production happening?
Yes, there was a constant music and video production daily.
Okay. And did you take part in the music and video production?
Yes, I did.
What did you do?
I was an actor.
Okay.
So basically, I was one of the main people who were always on camera.
Okay.
Whether it was we were singing, whether we were dancing, whether we were doing a skit, or whether we were just teaching.
Okay.
I was one of the main persons that was online.
Okay. And was it decided before you got online what the skits would be about, or was it just improv?
Sometimes we would decide what they would be before. Most of the time we would improv. But before we would improv, everybody was well aware that we were, because people were, there were certain designated cameramen.
Okay.
So when you had the camera around, you knew that it was, we were live.
Okay. And was that something that was done every single day?
It was done every day. There was a time that we did take off for a few weeks on social media, and that's when we were harassed.
Okay. And when you were harassed, was there, were there people that came, did the police come thinking that you were in some sort of trouble?
Yes, they did.
Okay. May I approach the witness judge?
Yes. Okay.
All right, guys, make sure you are smashing the like, smash the like button. Listen, I can go inside the courtroom and end the stream. You guys are going to have to support the platform. It's just what it is. I could be inside the courtroom and we can do this later. I would ask you guys just to support the platform by, just support the platform, With that said, ladies and gentlemen, let's go. Reason why the sound is the way it is because we have to mute out or beep out certain names. So if the volume is high and the beat level is mid, guess what? The names are being heard. Sorry. Just respect the process. Thank you. And I'm not going to put the guy on blast who got booted from the courtroom, but I heard the lie you were telling. But I know the truth, but we ain't going to be messy. Here's a sidebar. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever the lawyers approach the bench, the sound is muted. For those who don't watch trials, that's the process. Once again, the judge mutes the sound from her bench. We're back.
Use the mic.
Rather than me watching it and not looking, I'm sorry. Rather than me watching it and then making a relevance objection, I know I'm going to make a relevance objection. So
That's
can I
fine.
just
Let's
play
just
it?
go ahead and play. Count, just for the record, could you explain what we just said at the bench conference, Mr. Ripper? Put that on the record.
Yeah, at the bench conference, the state indicated to the court that they would have an objection for relevance regarding the body cam video that I'm attempting to play through Ms. Wade. The body cam, the state has now in their computer, they're setting up their, they're going to play the video for the entire court. The question was whether or not it was relevant or not. My response was it was relevant because it deals with whether or not people were being held against their will, and it also goes directly to the question that she just asked, and she just responded to it in the witness, Ms. Wade, of whether there was a time that they were not online and that people were being sent to the house in order to control them. And this deals directly with that. She's on video. She's actually the first person to get on.
Okay. Go ahead and play. Mr. Booker, do you know which portion of the video it is?
It's a very short video.
That's fine.
It's the entire video, maybe 5-7 minutes. I'm not exactly.
All right. Where,
It just starts.
all right, let me, hold on 1 second. Yeah, I've got to fix this. Let me, okay.
I'm waiting for it to pull up on the.
Oh, well, you have to get it to where, is that your computer screen?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
The program is opening now. Will be on this one.
$157.
What do you need to do, Thomas?
As soon as you guys are 3 minutes away, I'll do my final wire and we'll go hot.
Okay. Get hot? You need to do
No,
anything?
I'm not hot yet.
Okay, wait. I want to see where the camera so everybody knows the time.
We'll get all that shit back once we wire him and we know where it's got to be. Then we'll is the battery off and done now?
Did you see anything noteworthy in that clip?
Just muzzle discipline.
You said muzzle discipline?
And also a weapon.
Get a little closer to that microphone, would you?
My apologies, I'm sorry. Muzzle discipline, but more importantly, there was a weapon exchange that occurred with, I didn't see a safety check between those weapons. Not sure if it was a replica that she was handing off or a live firearm.
Is the battery off and done now?
Too much talking around this.
You had concerns about that?
Assuming that it was two live weapons being exchanged, I'm not exactly sure why that would have occurred. Then there should have been a safety check between those two. If he had a replica, then that would have been a good thing that he had a replica previously. But then if she handed him off a live gun, at that point in time, there should have been a safety check. But more likely in this particular circumstance, he's wired at the back and he's about to do a stunt where they're going to probably do a dead man's snatch. They're going to snatch him into that wall, probably when he's been fired upon or whatnot. Having said that, they probably took the live weapon and handed him a replica, a soft replica, so he wouldn't get hurt when he lands on the ground, metal object in his hand and whatnot. So that probably was an exchange for a soft rubber replica gun.
Okay.
And it's an assumption, I'm not sure.
And do you have a comment on Ms. Gutierrez's handling of that shotgun that she's carrying?
She's still carrying it by the muzzle end. That looks like a different shotgun actually than the previous one.
Okay. State's Exhibit 158.
So let's wait before we hook him up.
Yeah, otherwise he can catch all sorts of
Now,
stuff.
you know, I'm not saying he won't get blood on the rim. I don't know how these are.
No worries. Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
How, Thomas, how much blood do you think's gonna come out? If the lens is right here.
It'll get on you from there.
It'll get on the lens here.
It'll get on you.
Yeah, I got
See, I was thinking ahead.
Alright, so, hey camera, make sure you put in an optical flat and back the camera.
Wait, where's the look at? Really? The blood.
Hey Dave.
So on
Anything worrisome in that video?
Assuming Miss Gutierrez is behind camera, then they would be prepping for that scene and everything would have been in place. So no, assuming she's there.
Okay. And let me ask you this. In addition to seeing videos from the production outfitters behind the scenes collection, have you also seen some of the actual movie takes that were filmed during the 12 days of filming for Rust?
Yes.
I'm going to play for you States Exhibit 59, which is going to be from that collection.
There was one additional.
Hey, Mark. Stop. 159. I apologize.
There was one additional video in that exhibit. Are we continuing on with the behind the scenes now?
No, I was going to move us to the Rust Productions videos.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, just a minute. So did you publish 158, I guess is the question. Is that what the question is?
Yes, I published 158. Now we're moving on to 159.
Okay.
And Mr. Carpenter, I think I understand your question. Let's go ahead and move on to these.
Copy that.
Okay.
Mark?
Set, ready, and action.